I'll get to intros in a second, but what are we talking about today? I'm Intaker. I'm joined by Four Eyes, and we're going to talk about uncovering the legal industry's #1 lead source and how to make it even better. And so we're going to have a little bit of mystery here for the first couple slides, but we're going to get to the good stuff soon. And so, if you're just joining us now, I like to go through really quick some of the features that we have to make this a little more fun and exciting. There's a way for you to either raise your hand if you want to come join us on stage at the end, or just throw your question in the chat box. There's actually a little Q&A as well, where it's easy for us to see questions if you throw them in there directly. And otherwise, chat, you guys can hang out and chat amongst yourselves. I saw we had Sophia, we had Vita, we got a couple other people in the chat. So what's up, guys? It's good to see you. And I think this is the time that I'd like to introduce my lovely co-hosts. I'll take a quick moment to say I'm really, really honored and looking forward to this because Sam and Bert, excuse me, from the Four Eyes crew. I've been blessed to meet them a few times in person, and I'm really excited. Before I turn it over to them to make some quick intros, I talked to lots of people from both, the software for law firms, the software side, and also from agency and consulting side. But rarely do I get to have a conversation with a group of people who understand both worlds and can bring that level of expertise into, customers, into their law firms, and really help solve problems. Not just with the growth, but with the profitability and many different stages along the way. And so I think without further ado, I'll take a moment to introduce myself first. Hi, I'm Joe with Intaker. I handle all the partnerships here. And so if you are, on the agency side or the software side, you're probably going to talk to me. But I'm joined today by our lovely, lovely co-hosts, Sam and Bert. And so Sam is marketing director at Four Eyes. Bert is both the founder and attorney of the company. And I'll turn it over to them to quickly introduce themselves. And I'll start with you, Bert. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Joe. Yeah,
Right.
so like most people watching, I have my own law firm in addition to working with Four Eyes. So a lot of the things that we've learned is working with, hundreds of law firms around the country, looking at their data and us testing stuff internally. So we get to go back and forth with partners like Joe and Intaker, stuff that works. And we want to basically, our whole mission is to try to see how we can help law firms continue to make better decisions so they kind of, get more clients. So, and Sam is the person, if she can explain herself, but I'll just introduce you all in a way that Sam probably spends more time actually measuring multiple lead sources in law firms and probably most anybody in the country. She actually knows exactly what converts and what doesn't. So Sam does, she's absolutely an expert in terms of what does it take to convert.
Thank you, Bert. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. So I work at Four Eyes, and basically I work with firms one-on-one to look at their marketing numbers and see what sources are actually converting that into clients. I then compare all of those firm numbers across the nation and practice areas to find trends in those numbers and trying to keep up with marketing, which we all know is constantly changing.
There's a lot there. There's a lot to go into, especially with the marketing. That's what we wind up talking about a lot. But, it's big for growth. You need it. And so I think I'm going to also invite Sam and Bert, before we get too far into, what is this mysterious uncovered or untapped lead source for law firms, I want to set the stage and give people, or ask Bert and Sam to give people, if you've never heard of Four Eyes, if you don't know what they do, a really quick intro to your company. And so we've prepared the slide for you, and I think I'll let either Sam or Bert take this one. Go for it.
Yeah, for the most part, most lawyers are trying to figure out how to get more clients, and they end up guessing, going from one thing to the next. So our primary job is to basically take things from guessing to more of a method, a model. If you think about the scientific method, it's basically the same thing. We want to basically test and measure, and we have access to a lot of data, what's working. We try to make it easy for law firms. Quit the guessing and let's get serious.
All right. That was succinct, well said. And, I'll talk really quickly about Intaker now. And again, if you're on this webinar, you've seen this before, or you've heard of us at least. But if you're from the Four Eyes family and you don't know what is Intaker, we're really a legal automation, chat automation that uses empathy, right? That's what makes us different than any of the other, chat or other, lead capture and conversion tools. Is that empathy is at the core of everything that we do. And when we talk about using, whether that's video, whether that's just creating a compelling experience, when you're talking to or when you're interacting with someone new in a chat, it needs to have that feel of, hey, you're not alone, we're here for you. And that's been the guiding light for much of what we do. So, okay, before we, get into the good stuff, I'm going to just lay out what are the outcomes, right? Because if you signed up for this, you probably read a little bit, hey, what are they going to be talking about? There's a few important points that I want to go through and just set the stage. So when you leave here today, you'll know exactly what you got out of it, right? This is the big one. You're going to learn what is the greatest untapped source of quality leads for your law firm, right? And so if you have any consumer facing law firm, whether that's personal injury, bankruptcy, estate planning, immigration, criminal, or anything else, family, etc., you're going to want to know what is this great secret. And we'll see in a bit. It might not be you might have heard of it before. Let's just say that. All right. So we're going to identify what that is. We're going to go over how to quickly and effectively measure your performance. Now, this is where Sam is going to talk about much of her expertise, dig into some of the numbers as like an industry-wide approach. And I'm excited to see what she has to offer. And, I'll touch on, this is a big part of creating, a system that works. Creating an experience and a new client experience on your website so that when they come to you, they're not going to keep shopping. They're going to really focus on what you have to offer. And it's about crafting that right message, letting people know who you're able to serve, how you can serve them, and setting that intention when they first visit your website so they don't have to guess. We're going to take the guesswork out of their side too. We're going to, I touched on this before, but how to actually convert. So when you do get, the right people to your website, making sure every opportunity is converted, nothing is slipping through the cracks. And if there's a client that you want, you're able to take them on board. Okay. And then this is the last one, but this is where we both shine together for Four Eyes and for Intaker, the different tools that are going to help not just you, but your whole team to win. Because, oh man, I should have worn my Four Eyes shirt. I think it says success is a team sport. No, really, I had it in my head. It's going to wear my Four Eyes shirt. You guys got to see it. They have great merch. If you ever catch them at any of the events that they do, check it out. But success is more than just you as an attorney. It takes the whole team, whether that's a small team or a big one, and having the tools so that people can see where they are, know where they're going, and have a plan to get there. That is huge. Okay, so I will ask this question. Let me just drop this in some of your minds, right? I know many of you have your own firm in the audience, right? And you might have asked yourself this at some point before, why do some firms struggle to get new clients, to become profitable and to grow at a pace that they want? Why do some of them struggle, but others seem to have it all figured out? Or others are thriving and growing and making consistent success? And, there's a big question. There's a big answer. I'm going to focus on a small piece of that answer just to keep us, focused on this one thing that you can do if you aren't already by the end of this call. But successful firms do not leave to chance this one vital lead source. And this is something, if you are investing a lot in your digital marketing, or maybe you're not investing much at all in your digital marketing. But I'm sure if you're here, you have a website for your firm, right? And it is a matter of, is that a tool that you are leveraging to the highest degree? And when I talk about that, I'm not just talking about paid marketing, because everyone can, spend their way to the top, but what the success they get is not guaranteed. But there is always one thing that is evergreen, that will consistently return clients. And this is what Bert and Sam are going to go into from the numbers perspective of what they've seen talking to, hundreds of law firms, working with them very closely. And that is the number one untapped lead source is website SEO. Guys, I know you might be saying, that's I've heard of that before. I might even be, investing in website SEO. And if you are, I'm sure it's a good start, but it can always be better. There's always room for improvement. And especially, I'm going to let the experts kind of walk through what they've learned, why this is. But if you've gone through all the work of getting someone to your website already, and you're not taking that last 2mm step to actually get them to convert to a lead, a conversation, a client, right? That's a missed opportunity, and we do not want that. So search engine optimization, getting that organic traffic to your website is what we're going to talk about today, both the why and the how of it. And I think that's setting the stage. But this next part, I'm really going to defer to Sam and Bert to walk us through the nitty-gritty of this. So Sam, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, I think Bert was going to go through this.
All right, Bert, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm absolutely ready. Absolutely.
Do it.
All right, great. So let me just tell you just a little bit in terms of how we've come to this information. One, in terms of whether you're using Intake or something else, we help a lot of firms assemble their systems, and we help kind of identify what to measure and so how to manage, basically from a marketing and from a sales perspective. Most people, when you're growing, it's not a function of luck or just what are you guessing on? It's a function of actually just basically testing. So 4eyes, this is what we do kind of side by side. And across all the platforms and all the practice areas that we measure, the data has been pretty consistent. So let's see.
Shall we go to the data?
Please, sir.
Oh, can you guys see it?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. I think I might have been one slide behind you. These are the top performing lead sources, and websites always number one. Bert, would you say that's the case, no matter what practice area, or is that kind of more specific to?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, when we say number one lead source, what we're talking about is basically the cost to acquire a client. Right. So everybody they'd say, look, I get referrals all the time. That doesn't cost me anything. Well, we're not considering that a lead source. That is a source for clients, but that's not something that you're proactively, for the most part, creating a pipeline to try to create a consistent, predictable funnel of new clients coming in. And across the multiple, all these practice areas that we measure, number 2 to 5 change. They may be rotated. You may have to slip another one, but number one is always number one. Now, you may have some outliers in terms of numbers, and Sam can go into that when we look at some of these specific numbers. But it's really surprising to us on the 4eyes side when we're looking at these that probably the biggest opportunity that people have to kind of grow. They're always looking for the next lead source. If they did what they could do with their websites. They would, let me just say it like this, our job as leaders in organizations in law firms, we pretty much have 3 jobs. One, we have to pick the direction that we want to take the firm. The second thing is we have to maximize resources. And the third thing we need to do is solve problems. Now, we as lawyers, we're always solving problems. We know that's done. The direction of the firm, I would argue, is probably to create a consistently profitable, a sustainably profitable law firm. It's not good just to be profitable one month. We need to do it on a sustained basis, right? But how do you maximize resources, right? So how do you take a dollar bill and get the most bang for the buck from that dollar bill? That's what we're saying when it comes down to which lead sources to invest in. And time again, we see website. So Sam, if you don't mind, you could expand and kind of get into some numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add to that too, like Bert was saying, website's always the top performing lead source. Numbers 2 through 5 do change based on your practice area and your strategy. Strategy is a huge factor in most of these, whether you're using it for just general branding or direct lead generation. But website's always number one as far as conversions. But yeah, if we flip to the next slide, we can kind of go through how we got there. So this is a segment of our firms that we're measuring, and there's a lot that we measure here, but just to kind of break it down, we're looking at how many total leads came from their website, and then of those leads, how many ended up hiring the law firm. So when you're looking at this segment of data, so how much are you paying for your website and SEO, and then figuring out how much did that client cost. So over here on the right, you see numbers like one firm is paying $308 to get a client, and the best firm is paying 42. So obviously we want to be closer to that 42 number, but these are all dramatically lower than any other lead source that we're seeing. This is really good for like your foundation, like get as much as you possibly can out of your website and then add other lead sources like PPC, Facebook advertising, LSA, any other paid one is a lot higher cost per client acquisition than what we're seeing on the website right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on to what Sam just said. If you look at firm one and firm two, firm one spends $300 a month on their website. Firm two spends $3,000. Part of what we're saying is, although firm one is getting this $42 a hire on average coming through, how much more should they be spending? If what else could they do to get more of that? I mean, if you're getting 7 hires at 42, I'm going to basically say, I'll take as many of those as you can give me. And that's kind of the question that in terms of the points that we're getting ready to address, what do you need to do now? What's within your influence, your control to improve these numbers? So a lot of people say, I have a website next. I don't know what it does. Well, that's why we're here to kind of try to break down. Look, there's a strategy with each lead source to get the most juice from squeeze. And we're going to get into that. Right.
I love it, guys.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Yeah. So once they're on your website, what are they doing? How are you getting them to actually become a client? And so there's 3 main ways that we can get them to contact you. A call now, which obviously I'm going to recommend putting a tracking number on your website immediately. So we know that they're coming from your website and they're actually able to call you. The other way is a contact form, which is great for capturing information, but we also have to ask the question, what's our callback time? Once that contact form comes in and they raise their hand, how quick are staff actually making the phone call back and getting in touch with them? And the third way is a chat. So having that person right there on a live chat, especially with Intaker, it could be with a video, but having that ability to have somebody chat with them and then schedule an appointment immediately through that chat is super important. And but then also, how are you cementing that relationship after they've booked their appointment? Yeah, they booked an appointment virtually online, but what's their relationship with you afterwards to be able to actually show up to that appointment?
Yeah, so here's a bit of kind of like, where I think the value gets even like kind of deeper on this. So when it comes to marketing and sales, there's a really long laundry list of the things that you can do. The goal is to figure out where's the lowest hanging fruit. And one of the neat things and this may not apply to all practice areas, but as an example, the call nows are pretty consistent. Everybody has it. That's what the primary call to actions were for websites when they were first initiated. The form fills are good, but they don't necessarily indicate the hottest leads. People, you can get leads from anywhere, but how do you prioritize your leads, right? You prioritize the people who are most likely to hire. The chat ones seem to be, based on from the information that we've gathered, seem to be the hottest leads. And there are some unique opportunities. Like one of the paradigms one of the I'll just say one of the things that we learned that we didn't expect is that sometimes you would think a human person who's responding to a chat would be better than a bot. And that's not necessarily the case. The way, and I can say this, Joe can't, but the way that people who actually use people, the companies who use people to do chats, they have to man so many chats in order to be profitable. They follow a really simple script. And at the end of the day, they say, sure, I'll be happy to answer your question. Let me get all your contact information. At the end of that conversation, invariably is, all right, we'll have somebody reach out and talk to you, give you a call later to give you more information, right? So what you've done is you set this expectation that, look, I'm going to help you, but psych, I'm not. I got what I wanted, just hold on. The intaker kind of component is much more engaging, and you have the ability to get people to go ahead and set an appointment right there. So, that is a big difference. If people are wanting to set an appointment right then and there and making it easy, as compared to, all right, thank you for coming. Hold on. I hope you're in the same pain point that you are that when we reach out to you. It's a different game. So this strategy that Sam was talking about, how you're deploying your website and what are the next steps and how do we make it easier for your hottest potential leads to set, is a really, really, really big deal. And it's worth thousands of dollars a month. In terms of lessons. The only question is that, what are you going to do about it after this conversation? Is there anything you need to do?
Thank you for pointing that out. And I want to interject here, guys, because you brought up something that I don't have a slide on, but I think is really important for everyone. You're part of this conversation, which is putting yourself in the mind of your prospect. And if you are someone who you're looking for help, whether that is, extremely urgent, whether that's like a criminal matter, and you're looking for someone to help you get out of a bind, or whether that's immigration, where it might not be as urgent, but it's really your, the future of you and your family on the line. Being able to give someone the solution at the time that they have taken that brave step to put aside their fear and reach out. Because if you're attorneys, you probably know you can be intimidating to ordinary people. Not to say that you're, scary people. It's just that's the perception. And so when people do finally take that moment to say, okay, you know what, I know I need help, and this person looks pretty good. We don't want to lose that kind of momentum, because pretty quickly they could change their mind and say, I can't deal with this right now, or or they might not be in the same state of mind, like you said, Bert, at the time when they are willing to take action. And if we can give them a clear pathway to success at that point, and if you do have a consultation-based practice, then what we know, people at this point expect the ability to self-schedule. Consumers are a lot more, savvy and have a higher demand for excellence than they did even just a couple of years ago, right? And so the tools that we provide, that we want you to use, either with us or with anyone, the goal is to put yourself in the mind of that prospect and give them a path to get the help they need without having to guess, without having to wait. Just make it easy. They're going to love you. They're going to love your firm way more if you can do that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I personally think that you're right on point. I mean, Sam is the one, the good thing about what you're saying, Sam actually does this every single day with firms, Sam and her team. So, I mean, Sam, what would you throw out and, add to that?
Oh, no, I completely agree. People do expect to self-schedule. They, whether you're making a reservation at a restaurant or taking your dog to the groomer, you want to have that ability. But we find that with our data, not just self-scheduling online, but having that relationship with the client and building that for them, you're creating a bond with them immediately after they get that self-schedule in, and having someone from your team then creating that bond before the appointment.
Right.
Totally. And it takes a combination of both humans, of people, and systems. And I know that, my last conversation with Bert, you need both. You need people to run those systems, especially. But, we can design some parts of this to make that empathy and create that connection, make it easier on you and your team by automating a few of those. So self-scheduling is just one tool that we're going to talk a little bit more about. But I think we'll get back to I'll get it back to Sam to guide us to the next part, and then we'll kind of pick it up from there. Sam, are you ready?
Yes. Yeah. All right. So investing in SEO and driving traffic to the website, I can tell you after talking and analyzing a lot of different clients, not all websites are equal. Not all SEO vendors are equal. Having a strong relationship with your vendor and what their strategy is to get people to your website is really important. Knowing who your clients are that you want, and making sure that your vendor knows who the clients are that you want, and constantly checking in with them. Hey, we've noticed our traffic's down. What's going on? Have you changed anything? And having the open communication with the right vendor, I think, is really important to get people there. And then once they're on your site, what is your strategy to get them to convert, and making sure that it's very clear, call now, fill out this form, or self-schedule and talk to our chat bot and video. And then the last thing, building that relationship afterwards. So once they've scheduled an appointment, what are you doing to make sure that they're not just scheduling an appointment, but they do end up hiring?
Yeah, so let me just kind of step number 3. So people, to some extent, probably, most firms are doing number one. Somebody has exercised some type of discretion in terms of how to convert. And, we would argue, at least from some of the data that we've seen here recently, when comparing different ways to convert, Intaker has done very well, The one piece that people are not as familiar with, because we just take it for granted that people will call us, and if they want to hire us, they're just going to do it, is that once somebody does set an appointment where they reach out, that outbound telephone call is exceptionally powerful and increasing not just a set rate in terms of ability, how frequently do people set appointments, a show rate, and a hire rate. We've learned that on the outbound telephone call, it's a greater indicator, the quality of that call is a greater indicator whether they hire than almost at any other point. People, based on inbound telephones or outbound telephones, is the millions that we've basically measured. It seems to be, from our perspective, people actually make a decision to hire before they even make it to the office. And so being proactive in that communication, because let's face it, people hire people, right? They don't hire law firms, they hire people. Adding that human component in almost a 1-2 punch is really where Joe was suggesting, that it takes this combination, right? And if you orchestrate that well and it's repeatable and you can measure it, it gives you more to build upon. And that is the goal. Sam mentioned the success of your SEO strategy is a foundation. These other points that we're talking about build on top of that foundation. And I like throwing in this example. Chicken shacks have zero a foundation, right? They just slap a few boards, something else, and they hope the wind doesn't blow too hard, right? Skyscrapers, on the other hand, have to dig down before they dig up. And that's precisely what we're talking about right here. There's an architect, there's a plan, there's a strategy. And then that's why, obviously, the more mature or sophisticated, or let's just say smart the firm is, there's plenty of smart lawyers. There is not as many smart firms in terms of how they do this type of business. And if you learn how to be smart like that, you can scale your client generation at a much lower cost per client acquisition. The ROI goes up, what that really means is your profits grow faster than revenue. That's what people really want.
That is well said. Well said. I want to just also jump in here. Sam, was there anything else you were going to add before I okay, here's the thing is, it touches on what you just said, Bert. And if I can, I just want to go back a few slides, because when I saw this, and here's the thing, I know a little bit more about Four Eyes than maybe some people in the audience. And, one of the things that you're able to do is, help people look at their numbers. And so regardless of if they are, going to talk to you later or wind up ever working with you, I think it's important for all firms to be able to see a list of numbers like this and be able to understand, where their firm would lie. And so I'm just talking to the audience right now. If you have your own firm and you don't know these numbers, I would argue this might be the first step, after this call, is to either figure this out, take a look at some of the data, or find someone who can help you, because without having a clear idea of where you are today, where that baseline is, it's very hard to know where you can go as a next step, as the first step, as the 10th step, right? But having that baseline, I would say, is one of the most important things. And if you do, congratulations, you're probably ahead of many. But I just wanted to say that, because it's we didn't talk about it enough, the importance of having a strong foundation. And before I, kind of steal the show from you guys, I want to hear the last things you want to share on this part.
I would, there's a lot of points that you can read into in terms of numbers, right? So, but the goal is that whatever the system is, you're trying to optimize it. And I would argue that if you had in your law firm, how many cases can you handle a month? Then from that question, which, through kind of a little bit of Q&A, we can go back and forth with, we say, okay, well then, if you could handle, for example, 30 cases a month and you're getting 20, all right, where's the most leverage in terms of getting this additional 10? And maybe that might come to some extent from referrals. It's probably not all of those cases going to come from referrals. We've got to be kind of a little bit more proactive in some of our other client generation. And it's this this approach, this systematic approach in terms of prioritizing how you're getting your clients and then other resources is really how you can make that money to write the checks to make other things go away that you don't really feel like doing. That's, most people would hire people to do, all the stuff on their plate that they don't want to touch. I just don't have the money to do it. So that's why you get the cases, is to have the money so you can focus on what your highest and best use is. So whether it's how efficient your sales process is, whether it's how efficient your marketing, whether your vendor is actually good compared to other vendors. And unfortunately, as you can tell, not all vendors are created equal. Some of them, even like in this world, these are 6 and 7 times the cost. So, at the end of the day, people, if they have the right information, they can make better decisions. You make better decisions. That's the difference between what Joe had said beforehand, the firms that struggle and the ones that don't. The ones that aren't struggling are able to make better decisions for whatever reason. And that's just not law firms, it's any business.
Right. Yes. I'm feeling fired up, guys. Bert, thank you for taking me there, man. All right. So we've given a little bit of an overview, this #1 untapped lead source, it's your website. Congratulations. I'm sure you already have a website. Step #1. Next, are you making the best use of it? I would argue that no matter where you are, you can always improve. Right. And so I hope that you are able to leave today with at least one thing that is notable, that is helpful to you. All right, let me make sure that we are okay. So we talked a little bit about 4eyes, and Bert was really kind. Thank you. They've got to look at Intaker behind the scenes. Other vendors don't, because you help people analyze their numbers. And so I want to go really quickly. Why we believe that this method, this combination of really empathy and automation is a winning strategy for many different kinds of law firms, right? And so if we talk about the automation, just really quickly, I know it's a buzzword, lawyers keep hearing it, but really all of those repetitive, drudgerous tasks that you right now maybe, or your staff are doing, so many of those can be outsourced to systems, right? You always need people to man your systems, but if you have the right systems in place, then the job becomes exponentially easier for your people to run those systems. And what we know is that with chat, it is a relatively low value task. If you have a live chat, you probably have someone in the Philippines manning those chats, and it is. There are better ways to get the end result, of to capture leads, of to help qualify them, and at the end of the day, really get people, consumers, clients, the help they need faster, right? And speed is like one of the most important things here. And so when we talk about you get someone on your website, right? You've done 95% of the work, right, to convert them into a lead. But if you mess up that last 5%, then you won't even know about it. They will just be another person who bounced from your website. And, in many cases, it's just hard to tell, like, how many of those at bats you missed because of they did not convert, did not become a lead. And again, phones are great. Those people that are not afraid to pick up the phone are always going to do that. What we know is today, more than ever, people are sketched out. I get, how many spam calls a day? I got very good at blocking them as soon as they come in, those numbers. So I get less spam calls than I used to. But for many people, they're just not going to pick up the phone because they have whatever, psychological wounds from getting attacked by too many spam calls, whatever it is. Chat, we know, is become the preferred method for more and more people, especially in the age of texting, etc. But when you have chat, it needs to be quick. You cannot have someone wait to connect to a live operator. Even if it's 10 seconds, it might sound small, but if you sit there, I'm not going to keep you waiting for 10 seconds, right? But you get the idea. It makes the difference, and some people are going to bounce, right? And just to drive home this point about speed, I'm going to show you, this is not the big case study I want to show you guys, but this is a slide. I've shown it before, right? But just what happens when you go from a live chat to chat automation, this is with Intaker now. The numbers go up. Why do the numbers go up? People have to wait less. We can get them the help they need faster. And look, people know that who they're speaking to on a live chat is not even the attorney, not someone at the end of the day they can help. So the last thing you want to do is make them wait for someone who can't even help them, and they're smart enough to know that, right? And so the numbers are going to increase when you have more automation, especially in your chat, right? And when we think about empathy, right, going back to that part, it's more than just, you know, having a video, even though I'll show you the little video slide in a second. That's always a great way to put the attorney's face out there, build that personal connection, that trust. But it's also, like we mentioned, going back into the mind of the prospect and knowing what do they need, right? If they're reaching out for help, they don't want to have a back and forth. They want to do as much as they can today, right now, to meeting with you, getting the help they need as soon as possible, right? And so you want to give them the option to self-schedule appointments when engagement is the highest. This is another, you know, it kind of touches on both the empathy and the automation, right? And then as the law firm, it really does no good for you to just get a name and a phone number when you wind up having to call them back anyway, just to find out, is this the right fit? Is this person even someone I'm able to help, right? Are they qualified? Everyone needs a call back if they're a good potential client. But if they're a crazy, you know, internet person choking on a chicken bone at 2 a.m., you know, there could be better opportunities for you to focus on. So whatever tool you use, make sure that it can allow you to qualify leads before you have to pick up the phone and call them. It makes that first conversation so much more productive. And what Bert was saying, when we know that, you know, this is someone that is, you know, not just qualified, but really, you know, someone that needs help right now, and you're able to make that call back, or your team is, and then have that conversation. Like Bert said, you know, most people are going to even make the decision to hire before the consult. And knowing this information, the qualifying, if they're bankruptcy, or if they're, you know, estate planning, or if they're a family matter. I know family matters are some of the most sensitive, well, they're usually living in the same house with someone that they need a little bit of help with the situation. You know what I mean? So being able to be empathetic, responsive in those situations is going to make a huge difference. And first impressions are forever. I didn't talk a lot on this call about how we use video to create that deep connection with the managing partner, managing attorney. In many cases, that'll be you, or even just a representative of the firm. But when someone comes on a website and they can see, it's not just a little chat that says, how, we're a live chat waiting to talk. No, it's a short video of, in this case, this is a client of ours. Maybe someone knows Ben Glass. He's awesome. Check him out. Runs another group called Great Legal Marketing, but he's also a disability attorney, right? And so when someone comes on his website looking for help, maybe they've been in an accident, whether that's at work, you know, in a car, whatever it is, and it's a short way for you to build that trust, build that connection, and let people see, like Bert said, people hire people, right? There's a person on the other side of this firm that is qualified, experienced, compassionate, and willing to help, right? And you can actually tell them that in a 15-second video. Everyone sees it, and as long as you nail the video, you're going to be set for a long time, okay? And I think that kind of touches on all the ways that we want to help you take the website SEO visitor and make sure that you do not leave any stone unturned to convert them to a lead. I'm looking at the clock. We have 7 minutes left, guys. This has been flying by. So without further ado, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Bert and Sam, because we had something a little special that we prepared for you. Sam, are you going to lead this next part about the case study?
I am, yeah.
All right, it's up to you. Go for it.
All right. So, so one of the biggest questions that I get asked in marketing all the time is, I'm not hitting my goals. Do I need to increase my budget? And I'm like, hold on, what? Like, I know we always want to throw money at things to get more leads in, but that might not necessarily be the case. As Joe mentioned, qualified leads and seeing if a lead is qualified is super important. And if any part of your system you could get those qualified leads and then convert them at a higher rate, is probably a better strategy than just saying, hey, I need to increase my budget, especially with a website or a lead source like your website. What are you getting all of the leads in, and then what is your process to qualify them and then convert them? If you can go from say 5 qualified leads to 1 hire, and then go to three leads to a hire, I think it would be a lot easier to do that than just say, I just need to spend more money to get more leads and in another lead source. So if we could flip over to that slide really quick. Yeah. So this is just looking at one client that was at their total website traffic of their qualified leads. Did their qualified leads increase after using a chat bot? So I think that goes to Joe's point of being able to qualify through chat, and instead of those leads just being lost there, how are we qualifying them, and can we get to the point where we can even qualify them?
Yeah, and I think, with one of the, if you look at actually the numbers from underneath, what we were seeing is that the efficiency that they were basically converting was, I think we actually saw a 50% increase in terms of the efficiency of converting the leads. And since this was somebody we had measured for years in advance, in terms of we've been working with them for years, and this follow-up telephone call process we recommended beforehand, they were doing that before as well. So this wouldn't be just as a result of everything. This was actually kind of the one thing that changed was it was really the type of chat service that was being applied.
Yeah, and also you mentioned this person was like a 4eyes client before, and all the other systems that you use. So things like their website traffic wasn't changing. Their outbound strategies for none of the other lead sources or processes were changing. I just wanted to be clear that this is really just the only variable that we flipped. Is that right?
That's 100% right. And that's why, making decisions on marketing and sales, especially if you do it at a deeper level, there are a lot of moving pieces, and you can get like a false interpretation. You can make a decision and find out that that wasn't the case. So it takes a little bit of time, but to consistently kind of grow or to hedge against a bad market coming up, you want to be as certain as you possibly can what's working, what's not working, because none of us have money to blow.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right.
All right. So this is looking at conversions from the lead to hire, specifically from chat. So looking at a live chat, and then when they switched over to Intaker, so almost that 5 to 1. So out of every 5 leads turning into a hire, or out of every 3 leads turning into a hire, and how that converts and changes for that firm. So we do talk a lot about the website being your foundation, and are you getting the most you possibly can out of your website, and then layering on other marketing sources on top of that. Like, obviously you can't just have a website and say, okay, that's it, I'm done. But start there, maximize everything that you can out of your website. See if you can get to that 3 to 1 lead conversion, and then we can add on other lead sources and figure out the strategy within those as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on top of what Sam just said. I think that, maybe if y'all, when you were in undergrad, you took micro or macroeconomics, right? And they talk about the law of diminishing returns. There is a law of diminishing returns when it comes down to marketing, right? That at some point you're going to reach a level that for every dollar, the return on investment is really going to start to drop quickly. Right. And so that's what Sam's kind of suggesting to this extent. We've got to basically ride that website as far as to the point that we know that our resources are better spent on the next lead source. You got to find out there's a bracket in all lead sources, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook. You've got to know where to start. Look, I need to pour some more energy, and when to stop and throw it into the next one. And that's would probably go. I know we have a question that's going to come at the end. We get a lot of stuff from referrals. How do I get more from referrals? Hey, listen, you can only do but so much for referrals. And then you have to say, where's the next best use of my time? And that's a little bit art. We try to make as much as science, but if you follow the checklist that we've given you right here, you're going to be more than 80% of the way there.
I love it. And, the one thing, whenever I see this, I get happy. First of all, you guys have made it, unblinded the ability for people like me to just see the effect, the behind the scenes. Because here's the thing. I talk to a lot of people and they're like, yeah, Intaker's great. We love it. But they don't have the, sensory acuity to take a look at the actual impact, quantify it. Right. And so, that's the one thing I love. And I got to do a Four Eyes plug here because I talk to so many law firms, and just knowing your numbers is at, the heart of what Four Eyes does. And it pains me to see that there are still many firms that don't know these numbers. So this is a kind of chart that, I would love it if you're on this call, if you can go home and figure this out today, right? Where your number of qualified leads, your hire rate, and come up with this metric on your own, then again, congrats to you. But if you're someone that either doesn't know how or is looking for help, I think Four Eyes I would, beyond anyone else, recommend them. And I do know that there's a certain sort of mindset that goes along with, be part of the family when it comes to a group like Four Eyes. And I'll let Bert touch on that in just a bit. But this was really helpful, I think, for me at least, to see, okay, I know that there is a lift. We get so much, we get the data to a certain point, but we don't get the data on things like the hire rate. And, that's where I'm really happy that we could work together. Thank you guys for making this case study for us. It's really helpful. And I think at this point, we've kind of covered all the bases. I believe that I wanted to. We had 5 outcomes. And what do you think, guys? Did we hit all 5?
I think so.
All right.
That's right. The
All right.
audience.
So I know we're technically over, but we have time for just a couple Q&As. And there was Kyle in the chat. He asked one that I'll get to. But guys, also, if you're sticking around, and thank you all so much for being here. If you're in the audience now, you've been with us the whole time. And we really are so grateful to have you, an engaging and invested audience here. So I'll throw this in there. Kyle asked, for our firm, referrals are our #1 source of clients, right? So he's curious why that wasn't in the list of, the top 5 sources. And, are they an exception? Or Bert and Sam, you might have touched on this briefly before, but if you can just, share again the difference between like lead sources and a referral source for clients.
Yeah, so here's at the end of the day. So when you're looking at something and people are looking for lead sources, they're looking for something that scales. What can I do on a proactive basis that I can invest my time and money in that's going to help grow the clients? Referrals, by all means, are something you can do. However, your ability to control and affirmatively kind of push the button on referrals, it is probably the most passive lead source. We have active lead sources and we have passive lead sources. An active lead source would be an example of upping your budget in Google, okay? You're gonna see immediate results, and whether or not with the ROI is good or not. But if you want the other end of the spectrum in terms of the least responsive, where you just hope and pray that it works, referrals are there. So we all know the referrals, by and large, unless you're especially aggressive, are going to be the least expensive way of generating clients, but I don't consider it a lead source. It's almost like a byproduct of relationships. And so a lead source would be something, what can we actively do right now that I can get more clients in the door? Now, a website is going to be it's going to take a little bit longer. Well, I would say probably argue that Intaker probably makes that happen faster. The conversion rates, that's pretty instantaneous, right? But building traffic is going to take a little bit longer. And then, but you do have PPC, which is part of the reason why Google and some of these other ones are so expensive, right? Everybody tries to go to the easy ones. But if you maximize and double down on the ones that do take some effort, but are critical to you doing well, you're going to be a lot better off. So yeah, so referrals, if by your definition, if you consider them a lead source, but I personally haven't figured out, and there's probably best practices we could give someone. But if you want to grow, I want to have as much control with it as I possibly can. And I haven't seen anybody be able to scale a law firm that we've worked with hundreds of law firms around the country, and we're pretty deep into it. And my firm has 55% referral rate, and our clients, 55% of them come from there. So I'm not saying that they're not important. They absolutely are. But if I'm going to grow, that's probably not where I'm going to get my growth. And that's not where I'm going to have the most impact, for my time and my dollar bill.
Yeah, and if I could add to that too, Bert, I think it is the time component as well. Referrals and building networking events and going to different vendors and trying to build that referral network is normally very demanding on the owner themselves and being that image and that personality and everything. And it takes a lot of time versus another lead source can be passed to a vendor or passed to a staff member, and the owner doesn't need to be involved in that marketing. They can take a step back and give that to someone else. And referral networking, I just don't feel like they can pass that over to a vendor to do.
Yeah, it's not, it's all about scalability, right? You know, we all got, you have infinitely more things that are to be put on your plate. The question is, how do we get them done? And we have to spend less time doing it. That's the name of the game, is how do you create more leverage in your life? People don't need more things to do. They need to get a more leverage and greater ROI out of the things that they are doing.
I think that was very succinctly put. And there's just one more thing. I know we keep adding to this, but you know, if this is, and this came to mind because of what you said before, Bert, you know, if there's any way, because I think it is, you're right, it's passive, it's kind of hard to predict, but if there's anything that we can do to increase the referral source, I know about the law of reciprocity, right? And that if you're willing to be able to give something first before you expect to receive, I'm guessing this is especially true in professional relationships for referral sources. And, you know, client-facing referral sources, I'm sure if you do have like a list of your client family and you're sending those cards, those reminders, those things that, you know, you can outsource some of those tasks. And I, you know, definitely encourage you to look into that. But I also think that, like Bert said, it's not something that's easily within your control to as an ability to measure and manage it. And so go ahead.
If I can throw on one point, Joe, that just look, the most competitive practice area, bar none, is personal injury when it comes to marketing. And so what I have personally done is I've studied personal injury firms and what they have done to scale client generation from referrals. And these are people with 7- and 8-figure marketing budgets. It is incredibly inconsistent, the results they get, no matter how much time and money that they throw into it. So can you do it? Yes. But in terms of you reaping the rewards in an exponential fashion that scales with you, if I had seen anything to it, I mean, obviously, if you do everything right, we communicate, we follow up, you know, we value that relationship, we make it easy to make the referrals, those things all help. But it is a very long list of things to do to completely, let's just say, get all the juice from the squeeze from all your referral opportunities, that I think that you might, depending when we run out of the easy ones, I would probably argue that that's a healthy byproduct of a good firm, but that's not how that firm is going to increase profit faster than revenue.
All right. Well said, Bert. We got to do more of these, man, because I know we're out of time. I want to give you guys the last word. And by the way, if this slide, if you haven't figured it out yet, you can take your phone out, scan this thing, and take your demo if you want to speak with me. And if you want to connect with 4eyes, they have their own. And I'd like to just hear, you know, from you two before we wrap this up, you know, 2 things, right? Number one, I'm really curious to know, where is 4eyes going? Because I know there's a lot that you're able to help law firms with on the, you know, the data, the operations, et cetera. And then, you know, the second thing is, you know, if someone were to say or ask themselves, you know, like, am I ready for a product like 4eyes? Like, could this help me? You know, what are some of those questions that person should ask themselves, you know, before, you know, taking the next step? So if you could answer those 2 quickly, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, so in terms of what's coming up for 4eyes, we kind of are a research and development company by nature. We're always we're experimenting and trying to see what's working. I would say that the outbound telephone is probably one of the greatest opportunities for most firms that they're not leveraging in terms of the unconverted leads and what people would do. So that's just one thing I would float out there, that most firms take more of a passive approach for client contact, and they don't affirmatively kind of reach out to people that have already reached out to them. And if you did that just by an outbound telephone, sometimes you can fill the excess capacity that you have in your internal machine in order to generate those clients. From a standpoint in terms of what's the right, probably like say, what does somebody look like that basically probably would be most successful, where we could help the most, is I would say that you have somebody who's ambitious, that wants more, but basically can't figure it out. And you know, we're all designed, our firms are designed to get the results. We're perfectly designed to get the results that we get. I mean, like it or not, you know, we get what we deserve. And so if we want to get different results, we have to ask different questions. And usually asking those questions comes down to figuring out where the leaks are. You know, are you marketing well, and where the leaks in the rest of your process? And if you can find those leaks, you can plug them and you can improve everything. I mean, just like Intaker, I think there's a valuable, it's analogous to what we're doing. Intaker, one of the things that impressed upon at least myself, and I looked at the product, which I'm in the process of trying to implement this across several of our platforms, is that they break the pattern with that video in their front end. And based on the conversations, you do have the ability to remove the friction to actually set an appointment. And anytime in sales, when you can eliminate friction, you increase conversions. And that's kind of how we look at it with ourselves. You understand that our goal is to take somebody who has a need and help and allow us to help them. We have to identify that path and remove the friction, make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And if you do that on a consistent basis, obviously abnormal results kind of come. So it's not just law firms, it's any business. We just happen to do it in law because, you know, I was a lawyer and we wanted to figure out how to do it. We had enough friends that were willing to help us kind of try to get there. But I will tell you that, you know, life can get a lot easier if you have the right system and the right team behind you.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to just give a big shout out and also happy birthday, Bert. We went all the time. We didn't say happy birthday. Woo!
Whoa, happy birthday.
49.
We're so glad that you spent your special day with us. And, you know, for everyone in the webinar land, the audience, you're all still here. Oh my God, really, this means so much to me. We love you. We cannot wait to do more of this. There's going to be more conversations with Four Eyes and with Intaker. And, you know, so thank you for being part of this first one. And, you know, scan these codes if you want to connect with us. And, oh, I forgot to give the emails, but joe@intaker.me, mine is there. And Bert and Sam, if you want to shoot yours out too.
Yep, just sam@foureyes.com. And we can put it in the chat as well.
Very cool. All right. Well, Bert, Sam, thank you guys. This has been really special, really fun. And let's do it again soon. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Much love, everyone. Have a great night, morning, or afternoon. Ciao.